If you want phone number along with country code from your users, then it might be better to give different options of telephone code with country flag because user may not have any idea about telephone code of their country. So in this video, I'll show you step by step to build custom drop-down list of countries with code and flag. Without further ado, let's start. Hello and namaste everyone, this is Jitsaru with Coding Design. Welcome to our channel. If you are new here, please be sure to hit that subscribe button. Let's create index.html file, style.css file, and script.js file. Within the index.html file, if I type exclamation sign and hit that tab button, then you will get this basic HTML code. For the title, let's give telephone input field with country code and flag, or you can call it custom drop-down list. Now within the body tag, let's create div with class name select box. Within that, I am creating two divs. For the first div, I am giving class name selected option, and for the second div, let's give class name options. Within the first div, again I am creating another div, and next to that let's create input field with type tel. For the name attribute, I am again giving tel, and also let's give placeholder phone number. Now within the div, let's give country flag. For that you can visit this website called iconify.design, where you can find more than 150,000 open source vector icons. Now if you click this icon, you can take any specific icon library. If you scroll down, you will see separate section for maps and flags. I'm taking this library called flag icons, where they are providing more than 532 icons. You can see there are different flags, and you will be able to get two different dimensions of the flag. One is square shape and another is rectangular shape. With the help of that search bar, you can search any specific country's flag. Let's take this Great Britain's flag. And if I click that HTML, you can copy this web component, but I want to take that SVG framework. So let's copy this HTML tag and paste it there. As you can see, you will be able to get span tag with class name iconify, and there is also another attribute called data icon, and you'll get their flag, that means the library name, and you'll get their GB that represents country code, and after that you will be able to get dimension of that flag. Okay, but it is not enough. Okay, we need to give JavaScript link. So just bottom there you can see we can copy this JavaScript link, and just below that title tag let's paste it down there. Now with the help of live server extension, let's open this index.html file in our default browser. Now did you see that? You are able to get UK flag. And also just below that, within strong tag, let's give telephone code. And now within the div with class name options, let's create input tag with class name search box. And also let's give placeholder search country name. And just below that, I'm creating ordered list. Within that, let's create list item with class name option, and within that again I'm creating div. You can just duplicate this code, which was the code for country flag, and just bring it down there. Just below that, let's create span with class name country name, and now I'm giving country name United Kingdom. Similarly, just outside of that div, you can just duplicate this strong tag and bring it down there. Let's select this code and duplicate it. Let's change that country code. Let's give US, so that you will be able to get that USA flag. Now let's change that country name to United States, and also telephone code. In the browser you can see different country name with flag. It's time to give proper style for these elements. Okay, for that, just below the title tag, let's give link for our style.css file. Within the style.css file, for the universal selector, in order to prevent browser default margin and padding, I'm giving margin and padding to 0. Similarly, box size into border box, so that you'll be able to include your padding value within your width and height. Similarly, for the body, I'm giving font family to sans serif. Now I want to create root pseudo class. Within that, I'm creating primary CSS variable where I'll be storing dark gray color. And also let's create another secondary variable where I am storing yellow color. Now let's give the same secondary color for our body's background color. Now let's style that div with class name select box. So for the class select box, let's give width of 26 rem. For the margin, top and bottom, I'm giving 7 rem. For the left and right, I'm giving auto so that you will be able to get your content horizontally centered. Now let's style these input elements that is within our div with class name select box. So for the input elements, let's give width of 100%. For the padding top and bottom, I'm giving 1 rem. For the left and right, 0.6 rem. And also let's change that font size. Let's give 1.1 rem. As you can see, when you focus your input elements, you will be able to get that default border and outlines. So I'm giving border and outline to none. Now you can duplicate the same code and bring it down there. When you focus, at the time, let's change the border. For the width, I'm giving 0.1 rem. For the border style, let's give solid, and for the color, let's give that same primary variable. Now let's style this div with class name selected option. So for the class selected option, let's give the background color. I'm giving this light gray color, and also let's give display to flex and justify content to space between. And in order to bring vertical center, let's give align items to center. And also let's give border radius of 0.5 rem. Now you'll be able to see that rounded corners. And also when you focus your input element, you can see you'll be able to get that sharp edge box. So in order to prevent that, let's give overflow to hidden. Similarly, now let's style that div that is within our div with class name selected option. So for that div, let's give width of 6 rem. For the padding top, I'm giving 0. For the right, 2.8 rem. For the bottom, I'm giving 0. And for the left, 0.5 rem. Similarly, let's give text align to center. Now you can see this is exactly what I want. And also you can give cursor to pointer so that you will get pointing hand icon. Now you can duplicate the same code and bring it down there. For the div, let's give the after pseudo element. I'm giving position of absolute. Now you have to give position of relative for that div element because it's our parent element, okay? So for the before or after pseudo elements, you have to give content property, otherwise you won't be able to create this after pseudo element. I'm giving content to empty string, and also let's give width and height of 0.8 rem. Let's give border right. For the width, I'm giving 0.12 rem. For the style, solid, and for the color, let's give same primary variable. Let's duplicate the same code, and now instead of that border right, let's give border bottom. Let's give the proper position. For that, I'm giving right to 0.8 rem. And also for top, I'm giving 50%. And if I give transform, translate y to -50%, then you will be able to get vertically centered icon. And also let's rotate. I'm giving 45 degree. This is the exact icon that I want. But if you want to use different, you can pick any specific icons, okay? Now let's style another div with class name options. So for the class options that is within our div with class name select box, let's give position of absolute. Now we need to give position of relative for our div with class name select box. And also for the class options, let's give top value to 4 rem. And for the width, I'm giving 100%. Similarly, for the background color, let's give white color. Let's give some rounded corners. For that, I'm giving border radius of 0.5 rem. Now let's duplicate the same code and bring it down there. Now for the div with class name options, let's create before pseudo element. And again, I'm giving same position of absolute, content to empty string. And for the width and height, I'm giving 0. And for the border, let's give width of 0.6 rem. For the style, solid, and for the color, I'm giving transparent. Now for the border bottom color, if I give primary variable, did you see that? You will be able to get this black triangle shape. So it's kind of a trick. Now let's take it to the proper position. For that, I'm giving left of 1 rem. For the top, -1.2 rem. Now let's style the input with class name source box. For that input source box, For the background color, let's give same primary variable, same color that I have given for our triangle shape. I think for the top left and right, I have to give that rounded corners. So for the border radius, top left and right, I'm giving 0.5 rem. And for the bottom left and right, I'm giving 0. As you can see, when you type anything within that input field, you will be able to get black color text. So let's change that text color to white color. Okay, I have noticed there when you focus your input element, we are getting that weird effect. So what you can do is that you can duplicate that same border code and bring it up there. Instead of that border none, for the color, let's give transparent. And also I have noticed there when you focus that telephone input field, in your left side you will get rounded corners. So for the input with type tail, you can wrap this attribute within square bracket. Let's give specific border radius. For the top left, I'm giving 0. For the top right and bottom right, let's give 0.5 rem. And for the bottom left, let's give 0. Now you can see this is exactly what I want. Now let's style ordered list. So for the ordered list that is within our div with class name select box, let's give list style to none. And also I'm giving maximum height of 23 rem. So now if I select this code and duplicate it for more 10 times, and if I give overflow to overlay, did you see that? You will be able to get that vertical scroll bar. Let's give our custom scroll bar. For that, you can duplicate the same code and bring it down there. Now for the ordered list, let's give the pseudo class scroll bar. For that, I'm giving WebKit scroll bar. Let's give width of 0.6 rem. And if I select this code and duplicate it, let's change that width to 0.4 rem. And instead of that scroll bar, let's give scroll bar thumb. For the scroll bar thumb, let's give height of 3 rem. And also for the background color, I'm giving this light gray color. And also let's give some border radius. I'm giving border radius of 0.4 rem. Now let's style these list items, okay? So for the list items, let's give padding of 1 rem. And also I'm giving display to flex, justify content to space between, and let's give cursor to pointer so that you will get that pointing hand icon. Once again, let's duplicate the same code and bring it down there. Now when you hover list items, at the time let's change the background color. I'm giving background color to light cyan. Now you can see when you take your mouse near to that list items, you will be able to get this light cyan color. Now let's style this span tag with class name country name. So for the class country name, let's give margin left of 0.4 rem. Now you can see there is proper space between our flag and country name. Now it's time to give proper functionality, something like when you click that country flag and code, you will be able to bring that drop down list. Otherwise you have to hide that. We need to take the help of JavaScript code. So just before the end of body tag, let's give link for our script.js file. Within the script.js file, we'll select this div with class name selected option, input with type tail, and another input with class name source box, and also we'll select div with class name options. So within the script.js file, I'm creating constant variable select box, and I'm assigning document.querySelector. So we are selecting the div with class name options. Let's duplicate the same code. I'm using their comma so that I don't have to write that constant keyword multiple times. Let's change that variable name to source box, and let's change that class name to source box. And once again, you can duplicate the same code. Again, let's change that variable name to input box. Now you can copy this input with type tail, and you can wrap that attribute with square bracket. I'm duplicating the same code, and let's change that variable name to selected option. You can copy the same code and paste it there. Now instead of that underscore, you can give hyphen, and we are selecting the div that is within our div with class name selected option, this one, okay? Let's take our browser to the full screen by pressing F11 key, and what we want is that whenever you are clicking that country flag with code, we have to show and hide this drop down list. For that, we can take the help of that variable name selected option, and I'm giving dot add event listener. So we are listening to the click event, and now within the arrow function, you can take the help of that variable name select box, and I'm writing dot class list dot toggle. So with the help of this toggle method, you will be able to add and remove specific class name. So I'm giving the class name of active, but as you can see, for the div with class name options in our started CSS file, we haven't give any class active. So now you can duplicate the same code and bring it down there. And for the options, when you give class active, be careful, don't give there any kind of space, just give there dot active. Whenever you are giving class active for our div with class name options, at that time we are giving display to block, otherwise we will hide our div with class name options. So in your browser, did you see that? Now our drop down list that is totally hidden, but as soon as when I click that country flag with code, okay, it's not working. There might be some error. Let's check out. In your console, did you see that? I have already told you that we are selecting div with class name selected option, but I have forgot to give their dot, my bad. So once again, in your browser, did you see that? Now you'll be able to show and hide that drop-down list. But whenever you are showing and hiding your drop-down list, at that time, I want to change that icon's angle as well. So for that, as you can see, with the help of this after pseudo element, we have created that downward pointing icon. So now you can duplicate the same code and bring it down there. And once again, for that div, when you give class active, at that time for the after pseudo element, what you can do is that you can duplicate that transform code and bring it down there. Now whenever you are giving class active for that div, at the time we'll change that 45 degree to 225 degree in order to give some smooth transition. Let's give transition duration of 0.2 second for our after pseudo element. But as you can see, with the help of JavaScript code, I haven't given any kind of class active for our selected options div. So you can duplicate the same code, and as you can see, you can take this variable name selected option, and once again in your browser, did you see that? Now you will be able to show and hide your drop down list along with that animated arrow. But if you have noticed there, all the list items or the drop down list that was created manually with the help of HTML code, but we have to create dynamically with the help of JavaScript code. Okay, so for that, now you can remove all these codes. Let's create another constant variable countries, and I'm assigning array, and I'm giving again their comma. Don't forget to do that. And within the array, we'll create different objects where we will store different country name, code, phone. So there are 253 countries. It will take me lots of time to create all these objects. So in order to save some time, I'm just copying and pasting these codes. But don't worry, I'll give you the link of my source code in the description below. You can check out. Now, as you can see, within the countries variable, I have assigned array. So now we can iterate all these array elements in our index.html file. You can cut this list item code, and later on we'll paste within our JavaScript code. So I'm running for of loop. Let's give country of countries. So I'm representing each country with that country variable, and within that, let's create constant variable option, and I'm assigning backtick. In your keyboard, just above the tab button or next to number 1 key, you'll be able to get this symbol. Now within that, let's paste the code that we have cut it just a moment ago. As you can see, all these codes, they are static. So let's make it dynamic. We have already used for loop to iterate all these elements. So now you can take all these objects key. Now you can take the help of that country variable, and for that flag, as you can see, that country code, it was in uppercase, so we need to change into lowercase. First of all, let's get the country code. For that, let's wrap within the dollar curly bracket, and I'm writing country dot code, and I'm writing dot to lowercase. And also let's continue the process. We'll do the same thing. Let's give dollar curly bracket, and I'm writing country dot name. Similarly, for the country telephone code, again I'm giving their dollar curly bracket country dot phone. As you can see, I have created list items and stored within the variable name option. So it's time to append these elements within our ordered list. So for that, we can take this variable name select box, and I'm writing dot query selector. So let's select the ordered list, and again I'm writing dot insert adjacent HTML. Now within this function, for the first parameter, you can give the position where you want to insert. So I'm giving before end, and for the second parameter, you can give that specific HTML element that you want to insert. In our case, let's give that same variable name option where I have stored list item, and once again in our browser, did you see that? You will be able to get different flags with country name and code. This is working perfectly. So yeah, we have dynamically generated different country flag, name, specific code. And if you have noticed there, all the list, they are arranged in alphabetical order. Okay, I have noticed there for our source input box, we're not getting that proper space. For that, let's give padding top and bottom to 1.4 rem, and for the left and right, 1 rem. So now you can see. And also, I think I need to give some border between our list items. For that, you can duplicate this list item code and bring it down there. Now for the list item, let's give pseudo class not, and I'm passing their pseudo class last child. For the list item, except our last list item, let's give border bottom. I'm giving width of 0.1 rem. For this style, let's give solid, and for the color, I'm giving this light gray color. Now you will be able to see that border between our list items. I think now it's looking pretty good. Now when you select any specific country, you have to display that country flag with code within our selected option. So for that, let's create variable name options, and initially I'm giving null. But as soon as when you create your list items, at that time for our options variable, let's assign document.querySelector all. So we are selecting all the elements, that is our list elements with class name option. As you can see, this class option. So we are storing all the node list within our variable name options. So now we can iterate that with the help of for each loop. So I'm writing options.forEach. For each individual element, I'm representing it as option. Within that arrow function, I'm not giving curly bracket because I'm going to use single line of code. So I'm writing option.addEventListener. So we are listening to the click event, and for the second parameter, let's give the listener, I'm giving function name select option. But as you can see, we haven't created that function name. So now let's create that function name select option. With the help of this keyword, you'll be able to get that specific list item. So let me show you in the console. Did you see that? As soon as when I click any specific list item, you will get a whole list. Now I want to get both that div as well as a strong tag. So let's declare constant variable icon, and I'm assigning this.querySelector. So we can select that span with class name iconify. So let's give their .iconify, and again I'm using their comma. Let's declare another variable name phone code, and again I'm assigning this.querySelector, but this time we are selecting strong tag. But in order to create clone, you can write something like .clone node, and within that method you have to pass the true boolean value. You'll be able to not only clone that specific tag, with the help of that true boolean value, you'll be able to clone all the elements that is within that elements as well. Okay. Now you can take this variable name selected option, and I can write something like .innerHTML is equal to, I'm giving their empty string. As soon as when you click any specific list from our drop down list, we'll remove both country flag and code. And after that, once again I'm writing selected option.append will append that icon as well as phone code. So with the help of this append method, you will be able to append any node list as well as a string. So this is much more convenient method. Okay, so let me show you in the browser. As soon as when I click any specific list item, did you see that? You'll be able to change both country flag as well as code. So this is pretty cool. But now I want to give that specific country code within our phone number input field as well. Okay, so for that you can take this variable name input box, and you can write something like input box dot value is equal to, you can give that variable name phone code dot inner text. So once again, if I click any specific list, you see that in your input field as well, you will be able to get that code, something like this. But if you have noticed there, when you click any specific list item on that drop down list, it is still visible. We need to hide that drop down list as soon as when you click that any specific list. So for that, you can copy this whole code and paste it within our function name select option. Now instead of that toggle method, let's give remove. So now we are removing the class active. So once again in our browser, if I select any specific country, did you see that? You will be able to hide that drop down list, and also you will be able to change that country flag as well as country code. As you can see, we have given search bar, but we're not giving any kind of functionality. So when user type or when user search any specific country name, at that time we have to show only the country that matches with the source query. So for that, you can take this variable name source box, and you can write something like dot add event listener. So now we are listening to the input event, and for the second parameter, let's give the listener, I'm giving function name source country, but as you can see we haven't created that function name source country, so let's create that. Again, we can take that same variable name source box, and I'm writing dot value. So with the help of this code, when user type any text within that source bar, then you will be able to get that value. Okay, I'm writing dot to lowercase. With the help of this method, you will be able to change all the source query into lowercase. Let's store this value within the variable name source query. Now we need to compare our source query with all the list of country name. So for that, first of all, we need to iterate all the list of country. So I'm using for of loop. Let's write for option of options. Okay, that options where we have selected all the option. Now within that loop, you can write something like let is matched is equal to option dot query selector. So now you can select span with class name country name. Okay, you can select that class. And again, we need to get that inner text that is within our span tag with class name country name. So I'm writing dot inner text. Again, we need to convert it into lowercase. So let's take the same to lowercase function. And along with that, if I write dot includes within that method, now you can pass that source query. So if there is any match, it will return true. Now we can take the help of this is matched variable. You can give any condition or something like that. Okay, so I want to use some trick. You can write something like option dot class list dot toggle. So we are adding and removing the class hide. But for the second parameter, you can give their boolean value whether to add or remove that class hide. But I'm giving their exclamation sign. So if there is no any match, then we'll add class hide. Otherwise, we'll remove. But in our installed CSS file, I haven't given any kind of class hide for our list items. So for that, you can duplicate this code and bring it down there. For the list item, whenever you are giving class hide, at that time, we will give display to none. Let's check out. If I type unite, what if I type my country name? Okay, did you see that? As soon as when there is any update in your source bar, you will be able to show and hide any specific country, and that matches with the source query. When you select that specific country, although you will be able to get that country flag and code, but once again, when you get your drop down list, did you see that? In your input field, still you are getting their previously sourced country name, as well as in your country list, you are able to get only that country name that you have sourced. We need to now remove that class hide from all the list items, as well as that source query from our source bar. For that, whenever you are calling that function name select option, now you can take the same source box and you can write dot value is equal to empty string. So now we are removing that source query from our source bar. And also, in order to remove that class hide from our option or list item, you can write something like select box dot query selector all. So we are selecting the class hide and we need to iterate it. For that, I'm using for each loop. Within that, for each individual element, I'm representing it with L, and let's give arrow function. And for each element, you can write something like dot classes dot remove. So we are removing class name hide. Now with the help of this code, you will be able to remove all the class hide from our list items that contains class name hide. Okay, so once again in our browser, if you search any specific country name, you will be able to get that. And if I select that country, and once again if I click, did you see that? You will be able to get all the list of country with flag and codes, and everything is working perfectly. But I have noticed there, if user first they type their phone number and later on if they select these options, then phone number they will be replaced with code, so this might create problem. So this will be your challenge to insert the code before the phone number, and as soon as when user type that code, you need to able to change country flag as well as country code. So let me know in the comment box how many of you have tried, and let me know what kind of approach did you do to get the result. So that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you did learn something, smash that like button. If you have any kind of queries, let me know in the comment box. Share this video if you think someone needs it. And also, if you haven't already hit that subscribe button and also the notification bell icon. Remember, there is always more to learn, so keep learning.